In this election, the general public are going to cast their vote based on a number of issues, the NHS, immigration and the economy being chief amongst them. But one area that always goes unnoticed in this time is sport. It's something that parties themselves even seem to have ignored. Take the UKIP manifesto for example. In a document that spans 74 pages, not one single policy about what they have in terms of sport. Now, given how important that sport is in our culture and heritage in this country, I think it's only fair that we give it some recognition. To do this, I'm going to be looking at the three main parties, the Labour, the Conservatives and the Lib Dems, to see exactly what they have in terms of sport. We'll start off with the Labour Party. Now, their main policy going into this is they want to double the amount of physical activity in schools from 1 hour a week to 2 hours a week. But as I found out, doing something like that isn't as simple as it sounds. I spoke to Roy Gittins from Hampshire County Council. He felt a plan like this is indeed a feasible one.
Personally, I believe it is possible. It's already been demonstrated that it's achievable, and given the latest information coming from Public Health England and other similar authorities, we have to enable our youngsters to participate in as much physical activity, physical education as they possibly can within the school week.
He later explained to me, however, that although most children would support the idea, other students might need a little more convincing. Now obviously this is benefiting school children. Do you think the children themselves would, be in favour of an extra hour a week of PE? Or do you think most would sort of rebel against the idea?
Well, speaking from personal experience, and again you'd have to almost consider on a school by school basis, but where physical education and sport is presented well, then it's certainly my experience that the vast majority of kids absolutely love it and would engage in it.
Yeah, and what about those children aren't so sport orientated or don't enjoy PE all that much? How do you think they would react to being given an extra hour a week?
I honestly think that if physical education, physical activity and sport are presented in the right way with a wide range of opportunities, not solely based on traditional sports, that you can engage all youngsters in physical activity of one description or another.
Now the Conservatives have gone for a different approach. Rather than keeping kids active in schools, they're trying to drive up participation levels at local clubs. Following on from the success of the 2012 London Olympics and the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow in 2014, they're hoping that these inspirational scenes help drive up participation levels by people in the community. I've come down to Stoke City Athletics Club to get their take on it. How do events such as the London Olympics and the Commonwealth Games help drive up participation levels?
I'm not quite sure that they have driven up participation levels as such. We have no real influx of athletes any more than we had on any other year in 2012 or post 2012, to be honest. The sort of things that we have done to try and drive participation up here is to take on athletes at a younger and younger age, hence the very large group of young athletes under 11 that we currently have, something like 40 to 80 athletes, but they don't come as a direct consequence of the Olympic Games.
I think a lot of the increased numbers depended where you were and whether you'd got lots of facilities. Our facilities didn't change when the Olympics were finished. We had a small intake, but we didn't have a huge surge like some clubs have. But I think most of those were probably in the London areas.
So do you think it's important then that Olympic legacy and everything is nationwide rather than just in the city it was based?
I think yes, it ought to be, because athletics is important to people. It's an important activity.
There's always a responsibility, because if you don't get it into grassroots athletics, then where's your next Olympic champion going to come from?
Now last but not least, we have the Liberal Democrats. Now their main policy actually surrounds these seats. Now since the tragic events of Hillsborough in 1989 and the Taylor report that followed, all football stadiums in the top 2 tiers of English football have had to be converted into all-seater affairs. But after 25 years, many fans are actually clamouring to bring back terraces. Now the Liberal Democrats are hoping to bring back terraces when partnership with the Football Supporters Federation. Now, the Football Supporters Federation were willing to speak on camera, however I did email them and these were their response.
Safe standing only affects the Championship and Premier League. From League One downwards, you are allowed to have safe standing areas within your stadium, which is one of the more bizarre logical problems in campaigning for its introduction. The level of football being played in front of you dictates whether or not you're allowed to stand. Naturally, we hope that all political parties become aware of and get behind safe standing. Over the past couple of years, we've done a lot of work to get the industry on side. The Football League now officially backs safe standing, along with the Scottish Premiership and a number of individual clubs. It wouldn't surprise me if within 18 months we had legislative movement, but by the same token, we're not expecting quick results, and the process could still take a number of years.
So that's what the Football Supporters Federation think, but how do the fans feel? I'm stood here with Roger Titford, who's the Deputy Chairman of the Supporters Trust at Reading. Roger, thank you for joining me. What is the Supporters Trust at Reading's stance on the reintroduction of terraces?
We are broadly in favour. I think it will eventually come, and I'm changing my mind about that because I never thought any politician would ever revoke any safety legislation. But there are certain factors in play that I think will lead to this happening eventually.
One of the talks when the discussion about bringing back terraces is discussed is the Hillsborough disaster. And obviously that, as well as terraces, there was an issue of overcrowding there. Do you think that maybe with attendances having dropped in the past 30 years, that there won't be such a demand, so it won't be as hectic among terraces?
There are situations even now in seated areas where fans from some major clubs basically get in when they shouldn't do and overcrowd seated areas. I don't think you can argue that the prospect of overcrowding has completely gone away, but I suspect it would be quite rare.
So there you have it, the three main parties and their main policies in terms of sport. Now the question is, come the 7th of May, have they done enough to sway your vote?